Payton is attending the owners' meetings in Palm Beach, Florida, and today he spoke to the media for the first time since being issued that season-long suspension for his role in the Saints' 3-year bounty program, spearheaded by former defensive coordinator Greg Williams. Payton said he will decide in the next 2 to 3 days whether to appeal the suspension, while also addressing his long-term future with New Orleans. And he said he's turned to his former boss Parcells in a mentoring role throughout the entire process.
I think we're a little ahead of ourselves just in regards to that. Number one, I kind of speak with him pretty regularly, and I'll have a chance to visit with him when I'm down here. But that would involve Mickey, myself, Mr. Benson, and my conversations with Bill to date really have just been about the uniqueness with this situation.
Coach, what are your plans to appeal the process?
We haven't decided yet. There's kind of a checklist. There's a lot to do here in a short period of time, as you can imagine, with the draft coming up, our specific coaching staff. So I'm trying to get through all of that very quickly, and then I think by the end of this month we'll make a decision on that.
Coach, what was your
reaction when the penalty came up?
Well, none specifically. I mean, I think you go through a range of emotions, Rachel, that kind of hit you, and you're disappointed. You're disappointed in yourself that it got to this point, and then I think we're trained as coaches to begin preparation right away, and then I find myself reflecting on it, and you go through a lot of emotions.
Were you surprised at the severity or the length of the suspension?
I think the commissioner's done a great job communicating with us throughout this process, and I think being in a leadership role myself as a head coach, certainly I understand the position he's in, and I think he's made it clear, and for good reason. We've got such a good product right now that just the idea of something with this magnitude is an important issue he wanted to address.
Sean, are the guys on your staff still in consideration to do this for 1 year, like Pete and Steve possibly?
We've gone through, we've gone through just an early, between Mickey, myself, Mr. Benson, just an early synopsis of what our options would be. We'll continue to do that when we get back to Metairie. And even this morning, we're going to have some breakfast and discuss that matter. But fortunately, we feel like we've got a number of good candidates, and the trick is then what it does to affect their roles as they currently have.
In this entire process, how important is it to maybe right now even get Drew Brees signed even quicker to have that face of the franchise within your absence?
I think that's significant, and I think Mickey, Tom, and the parties involved in that process have had ongoing dialogue, and will continue to do so.
Sean, you said you're disappointed that it got to this point. How did it get to this point, and why did it get to this point?
Well, listen, there's a number of things just specifically in the report, some of which I can't comment on, but I made this statement earlier as the head coach. Anything that happens within the framework of your team and your program, you're responsible for, and that's a lesson I've learned, and it's one that it's easy to get carried away in regards to a certain side of the ball or more involved offensively or defensively, and that's something that I regret.
Sean, for a guy who's so detail-oriented, were you unaware of this?
Again, the first awareness specifically was after the 09-10 season, and then and that's when the league came in initially and visited with a few people.
Sean, you met with the commissioner twice. Do you think you were forthright? Because he said that throughout this process he didn't think there was consistent forthrightness when they went through this investigation.
Yeah, I saw part of what he said, and specifically, I don't know that he made mention of that directly to me. That being said, we take his office very seriously in the role he has, And in the 2 trips to New York, I made sure to do everything in my power to answer the questions honestly.
Sean,
Sean,
as far as
what's
you're
your
concerned,
thought process in terms of appealing?
Again, probably in the next 2 or 3 days, we'll make a decision on that, and we'll go from there.
Sean, is there a benefit potentially to an appeal even if the penalty is not reduced?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer if there would be. Certainly, I'm appreciative of the opportunity that we have to appeal, but I don't know that there would be a benefit.
Sean, following up Don's question is, you
Pardon?
literally, if you don't appeal, you literally have to plan a whole year in the latter part of this week.
A couple
about that
days.
challenge, yeah.
Well, I think it's unique in that it's unprecedented, and so I'm kind of one of those list guys, and so I've got a lot of to-do things right now. They're specific to football and football operations, and it starts with the leadership, it starts with our staff, gets into the draft, it gets into our players, the off-season calendar. All of that has been laid out already. Everything has been basically planned all the way up to the Hall of Fame game. Now, between now and then, though, there's a lot of little things that I'll try to make sure we get covered and hand it over to our coaches so that they have a pretty good understanding as to what I'm looking for.
What do you see yourself doing when you're out of football?
I don't know yet. The specifics of the suspension is one in which we're still trying to gather the information as well. But hopefully staying involved as best I can, and then we'll be able to make that decision, I think, sooner than later. But it seems like, for me right now, the checklist of things to do is what occupies my mind most.
Sean, how comfortable will you be with somebody from out?
About the language that they used about you in the report, Coach? Did that surprise you?
Well, I haven't seen a copy of the report, and so specifically,
Telling the assistants to have their ducks in a row?
yeah, again, specifically, I haven't seen the report, and so, as I mentioned, it's hard for me to go through each item line by line, but we've got, one of the things we've got is a good group of coaches, and we've got a great locker room, and I think the type of players we have, the character we have within the framework of our program, they'll get through this. This will be a challenge for them, but I think it's something that we're kind of used to handling. We've gone through a lot of adversity, and we've won a lot of games in a really a short window of time. And I know our players, our leaders, both within the locker room and the coaching staff, we'll look at this as a challenge and also a little bit as an opportunity.
Sean, you said you
I know you've always kind of taken your time on addressing everything that's going on. The decision to do it today, why?
To do,
To address
for me,
all this today, yeah.
well, I think from a planning standpoint, it was going to be hard for me to be down here for 4 days with everything that we're talking about having to get done. So coming in for 1 day, it made sense that today's meetings are the head coach, general manager, and owner meetings. I thought that was the important meeting I needed to be at. We'll leave here this afternoon and kind of begin the steps of, or continue on with the checklist that we talked about. But
Did you feel a sense of obligation to set
yeah,
stands?
I mean, yeah, I think so. This is, typically you look forward to coming to the owners meeting and you get a chance to connect and see a lot of people. And, this and the Combine are two of the events league-wide that we have where you see your peer group. For us as coaches, this is the one time where you see the ownership of the other 31 teams. So, to stay away, I didn't consider as an option.
Sean,
Will
you
you
talked
address
about
the
overcoming obstacles this team has in the past. Drew really took a leadership role during the lockout last year. Just talk about what you expect from him and how fortunate this franchise is to have him in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think this. I think the hardest thing is the idea that this would, possibly put a taint or tarnish the success we've had, and I think our players feel that same way. We've won 41 games in the last 3 years. That's hard to do, and that's done through hard work. It's done through discipline. It's done through execution. It's done through having good football players that are very coachable. And so when we found ourselves maybe in a 2-game losing streak or relocated because of a hurricane, or we found ourselves kind of going through some tough times, we've always responded well. And so this is uniquely different, but I do think that our players and our coaches will take that same response, and that starts with our captains, guys that have been in the program for the whole 6 years that we've been together.
Will you address the owners, and if so, what are you saying to them?
I don't think so. I know Mr. Benson had a chance to, and it'll be more a matter of business for me.
Sean, you mentioned the competency of your coaches. What would make you go outside and perhaps pursue a guy like Parcells, and do you plan on meeting with him while you're down?
I think, well, I'll have a chance to see Bill, and I normally would anytime we're in this area. Generally, we stay in touch every week or so on the phone. I think it would just be considering all options, to be fair, and really trying to do our homework on each option before making a decision. But Mickey and I and Mr. Benson, there's a lot of small steps here before we would get to that point of having to make a decision.
What's the timetable
right
on that?
away.
When do you think you'll make a decision?
Well, I think some of it would be predicated on whether or not we have an appeal or not. Does that make sense? In other words, that could possibly push back the decision in regards to the head coach.
Do you feel you've been punished for something that happens fairly commonplace in the league, or do you accept this as justified?
No, I accept this, and I've heard that argument, and I think trying to really look closely at how we and how I can improve has been probably a better way for me to handle this than to kind of vent or look outwardly at other programs, and I think I've tried to take that approach.
How difficult the last 5 days been?
They've been difficult, challenging. It's interesting. You find out how close some of your friends are, and I said this in the statement. Our fans back in New Orleans have been amazing. My peers, guys that I'm very close with in this league, the players on our team, and really that's it's like a family, and so that's the thing that it gets you through something like this.
Have you had any contact with Greg Williams over the last few weeks? Or?
I've not.
Sean, are you considering the TV option that people have reported?
Yeah, I've read a few of those articles, and I would say this: you would, in my position, try to just keep all your options open, and then eventually make a decision.
Sean, how open is Bill in considering the opportunity to perhaps come back?
Well, we really haven't gotten into it, and I've really called him more as just a mentor, someone to shoot some ideas off of. That would be very consistent with what I do, regardless of this being. Obviously, this is different, but I speak to him pretty regularly in regards to advice.
Sean,
and so, hold on one second. So the dialogue I have with him would be pretty normal, especially in this area. In fact, for me to be down here, and if I didn't call him or try to set up a time to see him, I'd probably get his wrath. So, but the specifics in regards to him coaching, and I've read a lot of the reports, that would be something that Mickey and I and our owner and Bill would deal with at a later time. Right now, it's been really more as an advisor, as a parent, and that's kind of really what he's been to me.
What's been his best advice to you?
Just in handling this candidly, being upfront, and then understanding the specifics that operate within our league, and he's been very supportive. Go ahead, Charlie.
The commissioner was asked yesterday about whether you could speak during your suspension to anybody with the Saints, and he was kind of vague on it. He almost implied that, he can't coach the team, but he can go ahead and talk to them. Do you have any outline on that?
I think it's a great question, and and I'm not answering this for the commissioner either, but I think within the framework of the next few weeks, having a clear definition in regards to, I think it's easier with a player because it exists. In other words, that protocol exists, right? But this is different. And so what specifically are the guidelines, and then let's make sure we follow them. And I think that, you know, that process will take place, and we'll continue to communicate and really acquiesce to the league in regards to, hey, how do you see these specific things being followed?
In regards to the appeal process, might that not be one of the benefits of going through it? You find out more of the parameters of what the protocol will be.
Yeah, I think that can be a plus.
Sean, do you believe any players were seriously injured as a result of the bounty?
No.
And do you feel any
No.
responsibilities with it?
Sean, when you go through all the options, what is intriguing about Bill Parcells, if that is one of them?
Well, you're asking me what are his great strengths, and I would say to you, he's a great teacher. Certainly, I'm biased having worked with him, but he's a Hall of Fame head coach, and I would also say there's some things probably set up within the framework of our program that would be exactly how he would have set those things up had he been the head coach here back in '06. So there is some carryover that way.
Sean, you talked about looking ahead, planning, trying to find solutions. But how much damage personally has this done to you for you?
I don't think. I mean, certainly you take lumps, and I've taken them before, but I look forward to getting back, and I look forward to winning, being successful, and being a part of. I think the biggest challenge is, you know, driving in here this morning. This will probably be 39 years, you know, as a Pop Warner player, as a high school player, college player, and then college coach, professional coach. This, you know, potentially is the first of 39 years where you're not directly involved in football for a season. But that being said, you know, I look forward to getting back in this position. I look forward to winning, and we'll do that.
Sean,
one more question, last one. I have to meet
in
with
the
our
in the report. It said that you told Greg Williams when you hired him that he wanted to turn the defense. You wanted them to get nasty. Is this what you had in mind, or?
No, obviously not. We'll take one more question since that was quick.
Sean, is there any doubt? Is there any doubt that next year you will return? You're 100% certain on that?
100% certain. Thanks. We'll see you guys.
Thank you, Sean. And here is what Bill Parcells told ESPN this morning about Sean Payton. Quote, Sean has been a friend of mine for many years. He sought my counsel after the suspension, and we must have talked 8 or 9 times. We did talk about his coaching staff. That's a natural thing to discuss in this situation. We'll talk a little more today.